He's very strong. I'm just glad he's alive.
Emotional words from a local hero's daughter. Her father, a Marine veteran, credited with saving 2 people from a Pigtown house explosion. The major milestone in his recovery.
This was just the wrong bill for this moment.
Mayor Brandon Scott vetoes the pension bill. Fox 45 News presses council members if they support the mayor or the bill. And Arundel County students given safe transportation to school. Only it's not being provided by the school system.
When I saw them babies walking, I was like, oh my God.
How one woman is making a difference as Fox 45 News Project Baltimore questions where's the aid that was promised.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45's relentless coverage of the City Council pension plan continues as Mayor Brandon Scott decides to veto the legislation.
Tonight, more on the impact of that decision and what it means for Baltimore City.
We have team coverage tonight. Giovanni Patterson has been an outspoken opponent of that plan. He'll join us live in just a few minutes.
Our team coverage begins with Fox 45's Keith Daniels, who's pressing city leaders on this veto. Keith?
Well, Mary and Kai, the bill was fast-tracked by City Council President Nick Mosby. He first introduced the legislation November 7th, and then the full council voted to approve the bill just last week. And now tonight, the mayor's decision. Tonight, Mayor Brandon Scott's signature dilemma is over, announcing this evening he's vetoing the controversial pension bill. Legislation that would reduce the number of years needed for city elected leaders to receive lifetime benefits for part-time work, going from 12 to 8. City Councilman Zeke Cohen.
This was the right move by Mayor Scott.
The use of address and creating car insurance premiums.
About Scott's decision.
Here we are with the council president putting out legislation that, one, was ill-timed because there was no reason to rush this bill, but two, lacked any kind of financial analysis. So to me, this legislation sent the wrong message to Baltimoreans.
We reached out to council members who were among those who supported the bill, including Robert Stokes, Danielle McCrae, and the bill's sponsor, Council President Nick Mosby, asking for their response to the mayor's decision. I also asked Mosby, do you intend to call for a vote to override the mayor's veto? No council member replied. Meanwhile, on the night of what could be one of the most pivotal decisions of Scott's time in office, the mayor defends his position. In a statement, the mayor said in part, there are potential ethical issues, and he must maintain the public's trust, which many feel has been eroded by the bill. He goes on to say, in good conscience, he cannot sign the city council bill into law without the benefit of a complete and thorough analysis. The mayor points out there's no urgency to act at this time because as it stands, no council members are currently prevented from serving their full 12 years and receiving their pension, despite the passing of Question K, which enacts term limits and doesn't go into effect until 2024.
I am very glad that Mayor Scott vetoed this bill, and if the votes hold, it does not appear that the president has enough votes to override this veto.
Well, the mayor's decision comes just one day after the ethics board asked him to wait if he was considering signing it. They wanted to fully vet the bill and issue an advisory. But tonight, the mayor's veto. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Well, since last week, we asked you, should Mayor Scott veto the pension bill that City Council passed for themselves? More than 1,300 people voted in our poll. Nearly all of them, as you can see, 97% said yes, just 3% said no. That's about 40 people. The Maryland Public Policy Institute also responding to the veto, saying they applaud the mayor's decision. The statement says Baltimore residents should be thankful that their mayor was willing to stand up to his fellow politicians' self-interest. Hopefully the mayor and city council can now get back to doing the basics that residents need of them, such as improving public safety, infrastructure, and city finances.
Now, it's not clear if City Council President Nick Mosby will call for a vote to try and override the mayor's veto. He'd need 10 votes to do that. And as Keith mentioned, he likely doesn't have those votes. 7 other city council members voted yes on the bill. 5 council members voted against it. And again, council members Mark Conway and Eric Costello abstained from the vote. Both Conway and Costello would need to vote side with Mr. Mosby to override the mayor's veto. As Keith mentioned, this decision comes a day after the Ethics Board asked the mayor to wait on a signature until they fully vetted the bill and issued an advisory. Well, the board raised concerns about the possible conflicts of interest, given ethics laws clearly requires leaders to disqualify themselves from voting on anything they would personally benefit from. The Board of Ethics says it will still complete its evaluation. A group rallying against the pension change made it clear that they would try to unseat any member of the council who voted for it.
We will make our life mission to identify the members who voted in the wrong way in this amendment. We will do our best to find good men and women to compete against them in the next election, so that we have men and women in that body who represent the people of Baltimore.
Well, this isn't the first time Council President Nick Mosby's time in office has proved controversial. Shortly after he took office 2 years ago, it was revealed he had a $45,000 tax lien on his home. In April, Mosby led a chaotic city council meeting when he invited a rowdy group into City Hall for the Dollar Home program. Just last week, Mosby was granted a delay in his case in front of the Ethics Board, claiming he was having trouble finding a lawyer. They say he violated ethics rules when a legal defense fund was established in his name. Now, should Mosby's colleagues determine that he has crossed a line or several lines here, he could be removed by a 3/4 vote from City Council. Mosby could also be removed with a verified petition signed by at least 20% of qualified voters in Baltimore City.
The group known as People for Elected Accountability and Civic Engagement, or PEACE, has been outspoken in its opposition to the pension plan. Giovanni Patterson is part of that group. He joins us live now to weigh in. Giovanni, thank you.
Good evening, Kai. How you doing?
Pretty good, sir. Good to have you here. What's your initial reaction to the mayor's veto?
Well, it's good to see him do, the right thing for the people of Baltimore. And it's really, just goes back to showing how the people of Baltimore have a voice. I mean, over 72% of people voted for Question K, which kind of sparked all of this. And what it shows that, people can get things done when they put names on papers and go to the ballot box. And not only that, make their voices heard when it comes to city council, social media, all these type of things. So, the people of Baltimore are starting to be heard.
Yeah. FOX45 has tried to reach out to Council President Nick Mosby to see if Mr. Mosby will try and override the veto. So right now, we don't know. What is your group prepared to do, if anything, if Mr. Mosby is able to override the mayor's veto?
Well, again, whatever the next steps may be, again, we're looking to train and develop and educate people on how the inner workings of government works, get people trained and ready to be the next generation of leaders within Baltimore City, and really just help people get elected to those positions that did vote in their self-interest versus the interests of the people of Baltimore.
Mr. Patterson, and I imagine you did hear this earlier in the month. Mr. Mosby said that putting out this pension change was basically a response to Question K and kind of meeting the voters' needs and wants for members of the city council. Do you agree with that statement that Mr. Mosby made? Some considered it fairly controversial.
Well, again, the people of Baltimore voted. When we were campaigning for Question K, when it came to term limits, there was not a single argument made, well, what's going to happen with their pensions? That never came up. So the people of Baltimore spoke on saying, hey, we want term limits. We're the ones that pay taxes to pay your salary. We don't want to be dictated by the ones who we pay. So, for him to introduce a companion bill, as he's calling it, I think that was just done in the name of self-interest.
Interesting. Giovanni Patterson, always some thoughtful answers. We do appreciate it, and we will continue to talk with you and other members of your group PEACE.
All right. Thanks, Kai.
Thank you so much.
Well, we want to hear from you. Do you think City Council makes decisions with your best interest in mind? It's early, but so far 100% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
As questions swirl surrounding City Hall, getting details about the city's crime-fighting strategies continues to be a struggle. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost shows us how Safe Streets remains a program without transparency.
We've been investigating Safe Streets for over a year and using this whiteboard to keep you updated along the way. The program utilizes your tax dollars, and we know there are 10 different locations all over Baltimore. The city, we know, is changing the management of this program, which comes after our relentless coverage of this community violence intervention program. We continue to seek transparency from inside City Hall, demanding answers from the leaders about how they're using your tax dollars. We've gone to all 10 of the Safe Streets locations looking to talk to people about the program. When we've gone, we've either found no one there or no one willing to talk to us. We've been questioning Mayor Brandon Scott and Shantae Jackson. She's the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. That's the agency overseeing the implementation of the Safe Streets program. We've been asking a lot of questions, including how much money has the city spent on the Safe Streets program? Where is an organizational chart for the Safe Streets showing the employees and their responsibilities? Who are the employees? What type of training is provided to the workers, and who provides that training? These leaders, they've refused to answer these questions. I even asked Mayor Brandon Scott in person why he don't talk about it. Here's what he said.
Why won't your administration let us see Safe Streets? I just have one follow-up question, though. Is your administration hiding something when it comes to this program?
We're not hiding Safe Streets money because the contracts are all put out in the public. You can keep making it up in your head and saying it all over and over again, but they're publicly funded dollars. They're in the city budget. The contracts go through the Board of Estimates. If we have to give you guys a civics lesson every week, we might have to send you guys to Johns Hopkins University.
Thank you. Because we're getting stonewalled by these leaders, now we're looking to Bill Henry. He's the comptroller and oversees the city's finances. He also sits on the Board of Estimates. The BOE is the one that approves contracts with the city and other organizations. So we're trying to get our hands on copies of the contracts the city has with the community-based organizations. Those CBOs, they're the ones that are operating the 10 different Safe Streets locations in the city. September 30th, that's when we asked Comptroller Henry's office for those contracts. Here's what's happened since then. On October 7th, Henry's spokesperson told us those contracts are being pulled and that there were between 10 and 25 different contracts. They said the law department would review them before we could get them. Henry's office told us those contracts would be available by the end of the following week, or October 14th, but so far, we haven't gotten anything. Now the law department is telling us our public records request is going to take even more time to complete. So now, again, waiting on the city to give us information about how your tax dollars are being utilized. We're getting stonewalled by leaders, including Shantae Jackson, who refuses to sit down with us for an interview to talk about the Safe Streets program. City Council had an oversight hearing to try and get more information about the management change for Safe Streets, but the hearing ended with few details provided. As long as your tax dollars are being spent on this program, we will continue to demand accountability and transparency from the leaders in charge. At the Accountability Desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, Fox 45 has been investigating the Safe Streets program for months. You can find all of our past reporting and keep up with our investigation in the months to come on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight, students in one Anne Arundel County community now have a bus to and from school. But it's not the school system's bus. Project Baltimore has that story. Plus, one potential presidential candidate is sounding off on a shocking report on learning loss nationwide. Who's some are blaming while pushing for school choice?
Now that our latest weather maker is out of here, I am tracking some big changes over the next 24 hours. I'll let you know exactly what they are and when I'm tracking our next weather maker in a couple of minutes on Fox 45 News at 10.
There's still good people in the world, and I really do look up to my father.
Also tonight at 10:30, the daughter of a man who pulled two people from a fiery explosion in Baltimore shares why her father's a hero and tells us about his milestone recovery.
Students in one Anne Arundel County community finally have a bus to take them to and from school less than a week after Fox 45 exposed how middle school students were traveling more than 4 miles on their own just to get to class.
But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, the bus isn't coming from the Anne Arundel County public school system.
Unique Wiggins.
I don't got a face mask on, but can I hug you, please? Because I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Can't say it enough. This mom is thankful.
So I appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I thank God for you. And I just know that, like, your blessings are going to come.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
On Monday, for the first time this school year, Wiggins' son, Zion, finally got a reliable ride to school. But it's not from Anne Arundel County schools. It's being provided by Tanya Briggs.
When I saw them babies walking, I was like, oh my God. I was like, they're really walking like where there's no sidewalk.
Briggs, who owns a small transportation company, was watching last week as Project Baltimore interviewed Wiggins about her son and other students who live in Mead Village. Since the start of this school year, these middle school students have not had a consistent school bus, forcing them to travel nearly 4.5 miles to MacArthur Middle School on their own. A trip that includes walking nearly 1.5 miles along this highway with no sidewalks.
And for these kids to walk, they showing that they want to learn. They want to go to school. There's no way if they didn't want to school, they wouldn't.
That's another reason why I did this.
After seeing the story, Briggs looked Wiggins up online and contacted her. That was on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Over the holiday, Briggs was in contact with other families and offered to bus the students from Mead Village to school and back every day for free.
For these baby safeties, it has no cost. If I can do this every single day to assure their safety, I'm okay with it. And to make sure that these babies get to school.
On Monday, Briggs transported 8 students, including Zion, to and from school. She expects more as word spreads, and she says she'll continue to transport the students until a county bus is available. Briggs was able to do in a few days what Anne Arundel County Schools has not been able to do in 3 months: provide regular bus service to this low-income community.
It doesn't matter where you live. You're still a county student. You know, so rightfully they deserve to be treated the same way.
It's sad and ridiculous.
Wiggins and Briggs feel that way because even though many students here in public housing don't have bus service, other nearby students do. As Project Baltimore was doing this interview, we saw several school buses dropping off students.
Yeah.
But that's the bus for the magnet kids. Only the kids at the end of the block can ride that bus.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
On November 16th, 5 days after Project Baltimore first wrote Anne Arundel County Schools concerning these students, the school board passed an emergency contract to hire vans to transport about 2,600 special needs students to and from school, which will free up buses for communities like Mead Village. 2 weeks later, Wiggins still has not heard anything from the county about when her son will get a bus. In July, Anne Arundel County Schools did get a new superintendent, Dr. Mark Bedell. In a post on the school's website, he promised to make himself available to the media to establish an open, honest, transparent, and accurate framework. Yet Dr. Bedell will not interview with Project Baltimore. His office sent us a statement saying, Dr. Bedell does not have a comment for your story.
You think if the school system cared, they would have fixed this problem?
Absolutely, a long time ago. A long time ago.
That is what Wiggins told Project Baltimore when we first spoke. Now, after seeing how quickly Briggs was able to provide transportation for these students, this mom is even more certain.
They absolutely don't care. And until they show me that they do care, that's going to be my absolute response. I've been emailing Anne Arundel County since the beginning of September, and I've got no results. And that's absolutely unacceptable.
I'm Chris Papst, and this is Project Baltimore.
A presidential hopeful is sounding off at one of the nation's top education leaders. Why? Some say it could be a preview of what to expect in the next election.
And now that our latest weather maker is moving out and taking the rain along with it, I am tracking some big changes that involve some gusty winds plus some colder temperatures. Here's a preview of what to expect as you step out the door to head to the bus stop tomorrow morning. You're going to want to bundle up. Temperatures will start off near freezing and will end the day with sunny skies and temperatures in the mid-40s. In a couple of minutes, I'll let you know exactly how long these cooler temperatures are going to stick around.
An alarming report documenting learning loss across the nation due to the pandemic-related school closures has led many to declare a crisis in the classroom.
And politicians see it as a platform for their campaigns. The most recent example is one presidential hopeful with some scathing comments and a challenge for a top education official.
Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman explains.
Elections and education intertwined as voters are courted over what they want in their child's classroom, especially in light of sobering reports of poor performance and lack of learning due to shuttered schools during COVID. And that rhetoric reaching new levels as former Secretary of State and potential 2024 candidate Mike Pompeo attacked the head of one of the country's largest teachers' unions. Who's the most dangerous person in the world? Is it Chairman Kim? Is it Xi Jinping? The most dangerous person is Randi Weingarten, he wrote. It's not a close call, challenging her to a debate and assigning fault for student decline directly to her and the unions. Weingarten, calling the comments pathetic, fired back, if he wants to engage in a real discussion about what children need to thrive, fine with me, but I will not be a prop for his presidential ambitions. Weingarten and unions a favorite target of the right, blamed for school lockdowns or controversial policies over a student's gender identity.
And too many politicians are making it worse. They should be helping us help kids and communities, not making it harder with their culture wars and division.
Pompeo was on a long list of Republicans who may take on his former boss, Donald Trump, in 2024, as he recently alluded to.
Personality and celebrity just aren't going to get it done. The American people did not want to look backward. They wanted to look forward. They care about what happens tomorrow, not what happened yesterday.
While ganging up on Trump may be one GOP strategy, talking education is increasingly seen as a path to electoral victory.
You let me go to school. You gave me a voice.
You let us learn.
As Republican governors from Florida's Ron DeSantis to Virginia's Glenn Youngkin heralded so-called parents' rights and saw it pay off at the ballot box. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
It's hard to talk about this. Just know that my father put other people before his needs.
A Fox 45 exclusive. The family of a man many are calling a hero speaks out. We'll have an update on the man who risked his life to save 2 people from a home explosion in Pigtown.
Can inflation come down without triggering mass layoffs? What the head of the Federal Reserve just said about that right after the break. We're following 3 big stories at 10:30.
Good news for drivers with tolls left to pay. The update from the MDTA as many scramble to meet the payment deadline.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's decision to demote a top homicide prosecutor is having a ripple effect that delayed justice in an unrelated case.
First, a Fox 45 News exclusive that we're hearing from the family of the 70-year-old man many are calling a Baltimore hero.
I'm like freaking out on the inside because I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm just glad he's alive.
Terry Bagley risked his life to try to save a mother and daughter jumping into their Pigtown home after it exploded last week.
Rebecca Pryor spoke with his daughter. She joins us live right now with an update on his condition. And Rebecca, certainly some good news here, some prayers answered.
Yes, we have some good news. We have some bad news. Unfortunately, Terry Bagley, he does still remain here at the University of Maryland Medical Center in critical condition tonight. At 70 years old, his road to recovery will likely be a long one. But Kai, as you said, I talked to his daughter and she tells me the family did receive a glimmer of hope today.
He's still in critical condition. He's still in shock trauma. So it's kind of hard to speak on it.
In the face of raging fire, smoldering smoke, and blazing heat,
70-year-old Terry Bagley making a split-second life or death decision. Fire officials say the Marine veteran was walking along Bayard Street when a sudden blast blew this Baltimore row home to bits. That's when Bagley, not hesitating to follow the sounds of screams, helping pull a 16-year-old girl and 48-year-old woman to safety.
For him to be that old and him to be courageous and brave, that shows that it's still good people in the world.
But his bravery also leaving him badly injured.
The ceiling collapsed on him. I believe he was face down. He has bruised ribs and he's in a cast from up here to down here on his legs.
His daughter Icy, who's currently on deployment in South Korea, flying across the globe to be by his bedside, saying Bagley's heroic actions in the heat of the moment, nothing new for her father.
It made me realize he stayed true to his military values, because we talk about selfless service a lot. I really look up to him. He was one of my reasons why I joined the Army.
And Icy arriving just in time for a major milestone in Bagley's recovery. Following 3 surgeries, Bagley's breathing tubes finally removed, allowing his family to breathe a sigh of relief as Bagley speaks for the first time in over a week.
I saved 2 people. That's the first thing that came out his mouth, and I literally cried.
The cause of the explosion remains under investigation, but we now know the 16-year-old Bagley helped save released from the hospital and the 48-year-old in stable condition. Difficult to believe when looking at a home reduced to rubble.
My father is a good man, and he always, it's hard to talk about this. Just know that my father put other people before his needs.
On his road to recovery, Bagley's family requesting just one thing in return.
Just pray. Just pray and support. That's all I ask.
And along with prayers, there's also been a GoFundMe that's been set up to help pay for Bagley's medical expenses. If you'd like to donate, you can find a link in this story on our website. That's at foxbaltimore.com. Reporting live in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. We will keep praying for him. Well, we are feeling the impact of City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's decision to demote a veteran homicide prosecutor. Rita Wistoff-Ito was the prosecutor handling the Timothy Reynolds homicide case. She was demoted after being accused of giving information to the Reynolds family spokesperson.
Victims are entitled to certain information, and I think that Ms. Wistoff-Ito was providing information.
Now another case is being postponed as the result of the demotion. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has a look at what happened in court today.
Rita Wistoff-Ito was the prosecutor handling the Timothy Reynolds homicide case as the squeegee kid moves forward with his first-degree murder charges in the adult court system. But since Marilyn Mosby demoted the prosecutor, another high-profile case is being impacted. And now Shatika Lawson will have to wait even longer to find out her fate. Shatika Lawson facing first-degree child abuse, which led to death, and other child abuse charges, all connected to a 2019 incident where she was charged along with her wife, Alicia. Alicia's biological son, 4-year-old Malachi, died from severe burns. Prosecutors say the Lawsons did not take Malachi to the hospital for treatment after being burned from scalding bathwater. The women say it was out of fear of Child Protective Services. Malachi's body was wrapped in a blanket and put in a dumpster. Alicia pleading guilty in August 2021. Her wife, Shatika, is awaiting trial that was set to begin November 30th. That court date coming and going without the trial starting.
Ms. Lawson has been in jail, held without bail, for 1,214 days. By the time this case gets to trial, she will be held without bail for nearly 4 years. That is a violation of her constitutional speedy trial rights, and we were really hoping to go to trial today, but of course, the case that ended up getting postponed for another 6 months.
Roya Hanna, Shatika's defense attorney, says the delay is because of City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's decision to demote veteran prosecutor Rita Wistoff-Ito. She was one of 2 prosecutors on Shatika's wife's case, and was also leading the high-profile case of the death of Timothy Reynolds, until Mosby claims the prosecutor leaked information to the attorney representing the Reynolds family in the criminal case.
I think the thing that really shocks me is that they made the spur-of-the-moment decision and they didn't have a backup plan. And now defendants have to deal with it, victims' families have to deal with it, police officers, medical examiners, all of the people who are involved, and the court have to deal with the fallout of this decision that she made without adequate thought.
Hannah says this latest postponement marks the 11th time Shatika's case has been delayed. For a while, it was due to COVID, but now Hannah says it's because of the decision to take cases away from the prosecutor. And Hannah says the delay violates her client's rights to a speedy trial.
It is possible that it could get dismissed because of a constitutional speedy trial violation. I'm going to be filing another speedy trial motion, and we hope to have that argued sooner rather than later.
Rita Wistoff-Ito has worked in the state's attorney's office for 2 decades and worked homicide for 10 years. In 2018, this video from the state's attorney's office shows Wistoff-Ito winning an award for prosecutors who handle, quote, challenging cases in pursuit of justice by devoting his or her time and energy in and out of the courtroom. 4 years later, Mosby took all of those cases away. And now homicide cases in Baltimore hang in the balance while the top prosecutor prepares to leave office. Meanwhile, Shatika Lawson's case delayed again, now set for a trial in May, more than 3 years later. New prosecutors have not yet been reassigned to these cases, and Ivan Bates will take over in January, but it's unclear what will happen when he does. In the meantime, City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby in her office staying quiet about Rita Wistoff-Ito, as well as the cases that have been impacted by this move. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
A transition of power in Baltimore City as new Sheriff Sam Cogan officially takes his post. He was sworn in around 2 o'clock this afternoon. According to state law, the sheriff can be sworn in as soon as the state's election results are verified. Cogan takes over after unseating longtime incumbent John Anderson, who served as sheriff for more than 30 years. You can find more on this story, including our interview with Cogan, on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
The video toll grace period for drivers who don't use Easy Pass has been extended by 2 weeks in a last-minute vote by the Maryland Transportation Authority Board. There have been long lines reported at Easy Pass customer service centers. The new deadline is now officially set for December 14th at 11:59 p.m. The MDTA Board says this is a hard deadline and there are no plans for another extension.
Well, tonight in Hanover, Governor Larry Hogan celebrating 8 years in office, throwing a party thanking his staff. He addressed rumors about a presidential run in 2024.
So, I'm not going to be making any announcements tonight.
Well, the biggest hints, though, came during 2 tribute videos. The first said, "Stay tuned." At the end, the second, after his speech, had him gazing upon the old Air Force One at the Reagan Library with a "This is just the beginning" message that followed. Hogan told supporters he will talk with his family and have an update sometime next year.
The stock staged a late-day rally today. This after the Fed, Jerome Powell, signaled smaller rate hikes were on the horizon, though rate increases won't slow down. Despite rough patches, both the Dow and S&P are set to end up about 4% for the month of November. Well, the U.S. economy grew more than expected during the third quarter this year, according to new government data. We're also learning about slowdowns in other areas like home sales and job openings. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has the latest on what the head of the Federal Reserve just said about how this plays out.
Economists and investors hanging on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's every word, hinting a smaller interest rate hike, perhaps 50 basis points instead of 75, could come as soon as December.
We think that slowing down at this point is a good way to balance the risks of slowing down on the pace of rate hikes.
Adding the full effects of their aggressive rate hikes haven't been felt yet. A monthly Fed report out Wednesday reveals generally stagnant economic activity. Even though Congress mandates the Fed to stabilize prices, lawmakers are having a hard time stomaching the manufactured slowdown.
I don't think Chairman Powell has much choice now but to move on this front, but that's a terrible solution.
It has such a ripple effect, but we have to get everything aligned.
When most people hear recession, they think layoffs. So far, they're largely affecting the tech industry, which boomed during the pandemic. Meta, Twitter, Amazon, among those cutting workers. In Twitter's case, part of Elon Musk's restructuring. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen weighing in on the rest.
The tech sector is special. They've been hit
in a slowing economy, declining ad revenue.
Across industries, there's still a labor shortage, and it's still adding to inflation, but it may be easing. Private companies added 127,000 jobs in November, according to ADP, about 60,000 fewer than expected. But there are still 10.3 million open jobs, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or 1.7 jobs for every one person looking for work. Slowing down much faster are new and existing home sales as the Fed's action sends mortgage rates soaring. Some forecasts say a recession of some kind is inevitable. Powell disagrees.
I do continue to believe that there's a path to a soft or a softish landing. I do believe that.
A path Powell acknowledges is a narrow one. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar reporting.
We always train at high angles, but seeing the plane up there was a little different.
Montgomery County first responders sharing the story of their daring rescue made this weekend after a plane crashed into some massive power lines, how they were able to get the pilot and passenger out alive.
And I am tracking dropping temperatures tonight. We're already in the upper 30s and low 40s. I'll let you know exactly how cold it's going to feel when you step out the door tomorrow morning and when we're tracking our next weather maker in a couple of minutes on Fox 45 News at 10. Good evening. Now that our latest weather maker is getting out of here, we're looking drier down in Towson tonight. We are looking at dropping temperatures, though. We're already at 44 degrees under completely clear skies. I am currently tracking a west-northwesterly wind blowing at 17 miles an hour. Gusts even higher than that. The most recent gust up to 31 miles an hour. And that's making it feel a little colder than it actually is. And this is all as a cold front pushes through the area, bringing all this blue stuff along with it. That's the much colder air. It is oozing in from the north and west now. We're still seeing lots of 30s off to our north and west. Eventually we'll see temperatures like that here. Actually, not long from now. up until tomorrow morning. That's when temperatures will drop to near freezing levels. But otherwise, we're drying out completely. So high pressure is going to be building in for a couple of days. And that means we're not tracking any rain, at least through the end of the work week. And FutureScan shows our skies looking nice and clear, at least for 2 days. High pressure will briefly pass on by as we head through Friday morning, but Friday evening, here comes the clouds. And that is the start of our next weather maker. But this updated FutureScan still shows our best chance for showers actually rolling in very, very late Friday night. So overnight Friday night through daybreak on Saturday. Right around daybreak, that's when we get this skinny line of showers pushing through with the passage of that front. This is good news for outdoor plans Saturday afternoon. This shows that the rain is actually out of here by midday, and we're already seeing the sun return before sunset Saturday evening. Now, before that even gets here, we are tracking a drop in temperatures. Wind chills tomorrow morning. You're going to feel much, much colder. This is what you want to dress for tomorrow morning as you step out the door to head to work, to head to school. We've got teens and low 20s back on the map. So it's going to feel like winter, going to feel like December as we kick off a brand new month. And as we head through the afternoon tomorrow, it's still going to be brisk. So despite that sunshine we'll enjoy, it's going to feel a few degrees colder than it actually is. It's going to feel like we're actually stuck in the mid and upper 30s all day. Actual temperatures will make a run for the low 40s tomorrow. Friday similar. Friday morning actually even colder. We'll start the day off in the mid-20s. As we head through Friday afternoon, temperatures will climb through the mid and upper 40s and eventually make their way into the low 50s. And temperatures will actually continue to warm through Saturday. But on Saturday, I am tracking that next weather maker, throwing in the chance for rain with that, mainly early on. If you want to do any Christmas activities or any holiday activities outside this weekend, I'd say Saturday afternoon, really your best bet if you want to enjoy some milder temperatures. Because come Sunday, although it's going to be a drier day, it's also going to turn much colder with highs dipping back into the upper 40s. A quick look ahead shows seasonable temperatures will stick around through early next week, but they come with a chance for showers starting late Monday and lingering through midweek. Mary?
Thank you, Amy. Well, 2 deaths have been reported just north of Montgomery, Alabama, after tornadoes ripped through the deep south overnight. Several homes were damaged, a fire station destroyed, and a roof ripped off an apartment complex. High winds downed power lines, and rain fell for several hours in some areas, with 5 inches creating flooding hazards. Residents recall taking cover as the storms tore through.
You know, we're about to sit down and eat, and wind started hitting. We tried to got to a safe place as fast as possible, and as soon as we got there, it was over.
I made it into what I call a safe room, and by the time I got there, it was over. It might have lasted maybe 15 seconds.
More than 50,000 customers in Mississippi and Alabama were without power early this morning. Well, an update now. 3 days after a single-engine plane crashed into a tower in Gaithersburg, firefighters are sharing their side of the story. Kelly Lynn with our Sinclair sister station in Washington has how they pulled off this dangerous rescue.
I've flown into a tower.
What happened in Gaithersburg Sunday night around 5:30 is something these men had never experienced.
We always train at high angles, but seeing the plane up there was a little different.
The single-engine plane was lodged in a power tower and entangled in live power lines. It was a dangerous situation that members of the technical rescue team say required careful planning.
We wanted to know how they managed to stabilize that plane that was dangling about 100 feet above the ground.
Once the power was de-energized and all the static electricity was dissipated, we ended up anchoring the plane with some heavy rigging to the tower.
I'm very concerned about my passenger. She was hurt.
By around 12:30 Monday morning, the rescue workers used a boom crane truck to lower pilot Patrick Merkel and his passenger Jan Williams to the ground.
We were able to get in close enough to get the harness on the patient.
A rescue this crew will never forget.
It was definitely once in a career, and hopefully I will never have to do that again.
I'm glad I got to be a part of it. I'm glad that we got to show what we can do.
For Fox 45, I'm Kelly Lynn.
An update now to the potential rail strike. Congress has voted to avert it. The legislation is now in the hands of the Senate, which needs to pass it before the strike is set for December 9th. There's been a stalemate between the workers' union and the railroads for months, with one strike averted in September after a tentative agreement was reached.
Once the members looked at it, some of the unions ratified it. They said this is enough, but a lot of union members felt, particularly in the wake of the pandemic, that paid sick leave was something that they had to have.
President Biden asked top leaders in Congress to get involved this week after they were reluctant to step into the fight. Ultimately, he decided the economic turmoil a strike would cause couldn't be ignored. Well, new tonight on the late edition, lethal robots taking hold in one metropolitan police force, what they look like, and the guidelines in place to keep innocent people safe. And could the Ravens offensive coordinator be on the move? Rocco DeSangro has the latest from a busy day at the Castle, coming up next on Sports Unlimited.
Lamar Jackson was out on the field for practice today, but was listed as a limited participant. Jackson, who was supposed to have his weekly press conference today, was dealing with a quad issue. A team spokesperson said that he received treatment after practice, and as a result, he did not speak with reporters. Welcome into Sports Unlimited. Could Jackson have a new offensive coordinator in the near future? According to a report by Stuart Mandel of The Athletic, Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman has spoken with Stanford about its head coaching vacancy. Roman has been with the Ravens since 2017 and the team's offensive coordinator since 2019. He coached with Jim Harbaugh at Stanford in 2009 and 2010. John Harbaugh said today that, yes, there have been some preliminary discussions. We'll hear more from Harbaugh later in the show. While Roman could be on his way out, running back J.K. Dobbins could be nearing his return to in-game action. The Ravens have designated the third-year running back for return, and he was back on the practice field for the first time on Wednesday. Dobbins received a very warm welcome from quarterback Lamar Jackson and even got a standing ovation from his teammates after participating in a drill. The team now has a 21-day window to place him on the active roster, put him on the season-ending IR. And on the heels of yesterday's thrilling World Cup victory, we are counting down to USA-Netherlands in the knockout round. Catch the action Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 45. Coming up tonight, after blowing a fourth-quarter lead to the Jags, how the Ravens' defense is approaching this Sunday's matchup against Russell Wilson and the Broncos. Mary?
Rocco, thank you. Ahead on the late edition, Mayor Brandon Scott says no to the City Council's new pension plan, his reasoning for the decision, and what happens next. Plus, avian flu makes its way to Maryland, where officials found the case and how they're taking swift action. Amazon says this past Thanksgiving shopping weekend was its biggest ever. The online retail giant is reporting independent businesses brought in more than $1 billion in sales. Shoppers spent an average of $325 on holiday gift purchases. According to the National Retail Federation, nearly 200 million people shopped online and in stores. That is up 17 million compared to last year.
62% said that spending around the holidays is critical for them. It is a priority so that they can make these celebrations meaningful for themselves or their families.
Experts have tips to save money this holiday season. They recommend creating a budget for holiday spending and trying to stick to it. They also recommend making holiday parties collaborative, asking guests to bring a dish or offer to co-host with other people to split the cost of an event.
This was just the wrong bill for this moment, and I am very glad to see Mayor Scott do the right thing and veto it.
Mayor Brandon Scott rejects the city council's new pension plan. We ask what happens next. A transition of power in Baltimore City. New Sheriff Sam Cogan is sworn in. Why Cogan says he's had no communication with his predecessor. And the man who pulled two people from a burning home in Pigtown shows improvement. Why his daughter tells Fox 45 he is her hero.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News Late Edition.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. Mayor Brandon Scott vetoes the Baltimore City Council's plan for reduced pension requirements. Tonight, Fox 45's Keith Daniels is pressing city leaders on that decision.
Well, the bill was fast-tracked by City Council President Nick Mosby. He first introduced the legislation November 7th. Then the full council approved the bill last week. And tonight, the mayor's decision. Tonight, Mayor Brandon Scott's signature dilemma is over, announcing this evening he's vetoing the controversial pension bill, legislation that would reduce the number of years needed for city elected leaders to receive lifetime benefits for part-time work, going from 12 to 8. City Councilman Zeke Cohen.
This was the right move by Mayor Scott.
A vocal critic of the bill from the beginning, speaking out about Scott's decision.
Here we are with the council president putting out legislation that, one, was ill-timed because there was no reason to rush this bill, but two, lacked any kind of financial analysis. So to me, this legislation sent the wrong message to Baltimoreans.
We reached out to council members who were among those who supported the bill, including Robert Stokes, Danielle McCrae, and the bill's sponsor, Council President Nick Mosby, asking for their response to the mayor's decision. I also asked Mosby, do you intend to call for a vote to override the mayor's veto? No council member replied. Meanwhile, on the night of what could be one of the most pivotal decisions of Scott's time in office, the mayor defends his position. In a statement, the mayor said in part, there are potential ethical issues, and he must maintain the public's trust, which many feel has been eroded by the bill. He goes on to say, in good conscience, he cannot sign the city council bill into law without the benefit of a complete and thorough analysis. The mayor points out there's no urgency to act at this time because, as it stands, no council members are currently prevented from serving their full 12 years and receiving their pension, despite the passing of Question K, which enacts term limits and doesn't go into effect until 2024.
I am very glad that Mayor Scott vetoed this bill, and if the votes hold, it does not appear that the president has enough votes to override this veto.
Well, the mayor's decision comes just one day after the ethics board asked him to wait for a signature if he was considering signing it. They say they wanted to fully vet the bill and issue an advisory. But tonight, the mayor's veto. Reporting tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
In a separate letter, Cohen says that he's asking Baltimore's director of finance to address back pay for Baltimore first responders. He says many are waiting on 4 months of back pay, and newly retired firefighters have not been given COVID and cost of living stipends that had been promised. Well, Baltimore police are asking for your help to identify this man in connection with a November 5th shooting investigation. Another man walked into the hospital after he was shot blocks away from Pimlico Racecourse. In the video, police say you can see the man police are after interacting with the victim. Police say the victim can be seen driving away, and that's when the suspect opens fire. Anyone with information can submit an anonymous tip to Baltimore Police.
The motion carries, so it will be approved to extend for the 2-week period.
Well, the video toll grace period for drivers who don't use Easy Pass has been extended by 2 weeks in a last-minute vote by the Maryland Transportation Authority Board. There have been long lines reported at Easy Pass customer service centers all week. Now, the new deadline is officially set for December 14th at 11:59 p.m. The MDTA board says this is a hard deadline and there are no plans for another extension.
Well, Governor Larry Hogan celebrating 8 years in office tonight at Maryland Live Hotel and Casino, throwing a party for his staff. Amid speculation about a possible run at the White House in 2024, Hogan stayed pretty tight-lipped.
So, I'm not going to be making any announcements tonight.
The biggest hints came during 2 tribute videos. The first said, "Stay tuned." The second, after his speech, had him gazing upon the old Air Force One at the Reagan Library with a "This is just the beginning" message that followed. Hogan told supporters he will talk with his family and have an update next year. Kai.
Mary, thank you. A transition of power in Baltimore City as new Sheriff Sam Cogan takes his post. He was sworn in around 2 o'clock. According to state law, the sheriff can be sworn in as soon as the state's election results are certified. Cogan takes over after unseating longtime incumbent John Anderson, who served more than 30 years.
There's a sense of urgency with the crime and the way it is in the city, and the fact that, I ran to try to modernize and reform the sheriff's office, and so I'm excited to be able to do that.
Does that mean you'll be adding to patrols, or?
Well, we have to determine what that's going to look like. But yes, that's one of the things that we're going to look at doing is adding to patrols, serving more warrants. We're looking at, working special events.
Well, there's been no comment from the former sheriff today. Cogan says he and his transition team haven't been given a chance to meet with John Anderson since the election.
Right here. Right there. There's 2 more.
While tense moments as police in Colorado rescue more than a dozen dogs from a burning trailer. See that video along with an update on the dog's condition.
And here's a preview of exactly how cold it's going to feel when you step out the door tomorrow morning. Yeah, much colder, right? Starting off in the teens and low 20s. I'll let you know exactly how long these colder temperatures are going to stick around and when we are tracking our next weather maker in a couple of minutes on the Late Edition.
Avian flu has made its way to a poultry farm in western Maryland, according to the State Department of Agriculture. 24,000 chickens had to be euthanized in order to prevent further spread. The USDA says avian flu doesn't affect meat or eggs, but does spread easily through the animal's nose and eyes. Officials believe it spread to Maryland through migration. A homeless advocacy group is sounding the alarm, saying Baltimore City and County are facing a homelessness epidemic. The group gathered at the home of the resident they say is now without a place to live after her building was contaminated with black mold and condemned. Advocates say unenforced housing standards and a lack of affordable housing is making it impossible for some families to find a place to live.
The pandemic is when something that is life-threatening affects the majority, the masses, okay? Homelessness is a life-threatening situation.
Well, speakers said the homelessness crisis is especially difficult on families who are caring for loved ones with disabilities. They're calling on county and city officials to expand funding for affordable housing and programs to combat homelessness.
For him to be that old and him to be courageous and brave, that shows that there's still good people in the world.
Well, a Baltimore Marine's heroic effort not lost in his family. Tonight, the veteran's daughter's emotional interview with Fox 45 News as he takes a major step toward recovery. The U.S. House approves a measure to prevent a railroad strike ahead, why lawmakers have the authority to override union votes.
I'm like freaking out on the inside because I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm just glad he's alive.
Terry Bagley risked his life to save a mother and daughter jumping into a Pigtown home after it exploded last week. In a story you'll see first on Fox, Rebecca Pryor spoke to his daughter, who was deployed in Korea but came home to be by her father's side.
Yeah, Mary and Kai, unfortunately, Terry Bagley remains here at the University of Maryland Medical Center tonight in critical condition. At 70 years old, his road to recovery will likely be a long one. However, his daughter tells me the family did receive a glimmer of hope tonight.
He's still in critical condition. He's still in shock trauma, so it's kind of hard to speak on it.
In the face of raging fire, smoldering smoke, and blazing heat, 70-year-old Terry Bagley making a split-second life or death decision. Fire officials say the Marine veteran was walking along Bayard Street when a sudden blast blew this Baltimore row home to bits. That's when Bagley, not hesitating to follow the sounds of screams, helping pull a 16-year-old girl and 48-year-old woman to safety.
For him to be that old and him to be courageous and brave, that shows that it's still good people in the world.
But his bravery also leaving him badly injured.
The ceiling collapsed on him. I believe he was face down. He has bruised ribs and he's in a cast from up here to down here on his legs.
His daughter Icy, who's currently on deployment in South Korea, flying across the globe to be by his bedside, saying Bagley's heroic actions in the heat of the moment, nothing new for her father.
It made me realize he stayed true to his military values, because we talk about selfless service a lot. I really look up to him. He was one of my reasons why I joined the Army.
And Icy arriving just in time for a major milestone in Bagley's recovery. Following 3 surgeries, Bagley's breathing tubes finally removed, allowing his family to breathe a sigh of relief as Bagley speaks for the first time in over a week.
I saved 2 people. That's the first thing that came out his mouth, and I literally cried.
The cause of the explosion remains under investigation, but we now know the 16-year-old Bagley helped save released from the hospital and the 48-year-old in stable condition. Difficult to believe when looking at a home reduced to rubble.
My father is a good man, and he always, it's hard to talk about this. Just know that my father put other people before his needs.
On his road to recovery, Bagley's family requesting just one thing in return.
Just pray. Just pray and support. That's all I ask.
And along with prayers, a GoFundMe has also been set up to help pay for Bagley's medical expenses. If you'd like to donate, you can find the link in this story on our website at foxbaltimore.com. Reporting in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
The House votes to avert a potential rail strike, trying to end a stalemate between the workers' union and railroads for months. Now, this means the House is approving a deal initially approved by the president, but rejected by 4 unions.
Once the members looked at it, some of the unions ratified it. That said, this is enough. But a lot of union members felt, particularly in the wake of the pandemic, that paid sick leave was something that they had to have.
Well, House lawmakers also voted to add paid sick leave, but it's not clear if the Senate will now take up that measure. Why does Congress have the power to override union votes? Well, the authority stems from the 1926 Railway Labor Act, part of Congress's power to regulate commerce. The law is designed to prevent disruptions in interstate commerce, areas like railways and airlines. Congress has intervened 18 times in its history to prevent a strike, last stepping in 1992. At that time, President Biden was one of 6 senators who voted against the move. A new policy will allow San Francisco police to use lethal robots during emergencies. The policy enables officers to use remote-controlled robots to carry out deadly force only when a member of the public or department's life is in danger. Now, the option must also outweigh any other available force option. These robots have been used since 2010 to assess bombs and help with visibility. The Prince and Princess of Wales are making their first trip overseas since Queen Elizabeth's death. It's the first time William and Kate have been in America in 8 years. They're visiting Boston to give out prizes for innovation related to climate change. Their visit comes amid ongoing controversy at Buckingham Palace, in which an aide resigned after making unacceptable and regrettable comments toward a black executive earlier this week.
And we are looking at a colder night ahead of us. Behind that weather maker, that cold front that moved through earlier this evening, setting us a little bit of rain at that point. Right now, clear skies have returned along with the colder temperatures. We're already back in the low 40s with a west-northwesterly wind at 23 miles an hour and gusts even higher than that. The most recent gust up to 34 miles an hour. And that's making it feel a little colder than it actually is. And all this cold air is moving in from the north and west. You'll notice the blue stuff is pushing our direction. Eventually, we'll see our temperatures fall to near freezing levels by tomorrow morning. And skies will continue to clear. Actually, not much happening on the weather map over the next couple of days. We are looking at a quiet pattern setting up that will take us through the end of the work week. And Future Scan shows that. Shows high pressure briefly passing on by, sending us clear skies. It's not until late Friday that we see the first signs of our next weather maker. And we'll start with some increasing clouds with some showers rolling through very, very late Friday night through early Saturday morning. The good news is it looks like this front will actually pass through right around midday on Saturday. So the whole day far from a washout. We get the rain out of the way early on, and then we've got plenty of dry time after that. We actually see some sunshine return before sunset on Saturday, and Saturday is definitely the warmer of the 2 weekend days. Before we get to that point, though, we've got a quick little cool down. Temperatures will start off near freezing tomorrow morning. It's going to be a brisk day. At any given point, winds will be gusting up to 15, 20 miles an hour, making it feel about 5 degrees colder than the numbers you're seeing right here. Friday morning starts off even colder. Temperatures bottom out in the mid-20s Friday morning. Friday afternoon, a little more seasonable with temperatures working their way back into the upper 40s, and eventually they end up in the low 50s. And then low 60s are back on Saturday. We have a little bit of everything as we head through the first full weekend of December. First of all, I'm tracking some showers early Saturday, dry by Saturday afternoon and mild. Sunday's the drier of the 2 weekend days, but it is going to be much colder. So if you have any holiday activities you're planning on doing this weekend, I'd say you're going to want to bundle up on Sunday with high temperatures returning to the upper 40s. And a quick look at our 8 to 14-day temperature outlook shows that as we head through the month of December, there is a decent chance that our temperatures will actually be coming in below average. So this outlook takes us all the way through mid-December on December 14th. In the short term, temperatures are pretty seasonable. We've got a couple of cold days thrown in here. For example, tomorrow is going to be one of them, a brisk day in the mid-40s, low 50s by Friday, low 60s by Saturday with some rain. Another cool down comes our way on Sunday, also a dry day, but then we've got some showers likely Monday through midweek with highs warming back into the mid-50s.
So all you have to do to be a part of this club is really just be interested in meat and cheese.
Still ahead, high school students sink their teeth into a new club. How social skills are pairing well with a delicious plate of food. Here's a look at today's top trending stories. Number one, December is almost here, tomorrow actually, and Spotify is releasing Spotify Wrapped. The music streaming service compiles each listener's top artists and songs from this year. For the third year in a row, Puerto Rican singer Bad Bunny was the most streamed artist worldwide. Rapper Drake was the most streamed artist in the United States, and Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, and BTS rounded out the top 5. Number two, a Virginia high school student is coming up with a creative way to meet new friends at school. You can't see this, but our producer spelled out meet with M-E-A-T in the teleprompter. It's funny to me. Here's why Jack Cheatham started a charcuterie club with the only requirement for entry being a love of meat and cheese. Jack says he only expected a few kids to show up, but so far the club has more than 100 members. He says the club is about more than just delicious food.
Learn how to speak in front of people. I mean, if you would have told me 2 years ago that I was doing an interview on the news, I would be like, what is wrong with you? I've always wanted to make a club. I feel like they're very valuable for building stronger communities, and it's a good way to meet friends, and I love food, so I wanted to tie it in somehow.
Yeah, it's a school, so they can't pair any wine with that charcuterie board, but hey, they're still getting the culture out of it. Meantime, it is also paired with a lot of education. Number three, a dramatic rescue is caught on camera as Colorado police pull 14 dogs trapped inside of a burning camper.
Right here. Right there. There's 2 more.
This is really hard to watch, and we really want to warn you about this, folks. The camper caught fire in a parking lot. You can see those deputies breaking the windows and freeing those crying dogs. Firefighters gave oxygen to 4 of the dogs. They were all taken to a vet and shelter for treatment. It's unclear what caused the fire or if the camper's owner could face charges. After a defensive collapse against the Jags, the Ravens are on the next one. How the team is approaching this Sunday's meeting with Russell Wilson and the Broncos.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
That's right. They lit the Christmas tree. That is President Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, and who else? Ladies love Cool James, LL Cool J, the man, the myth, the legend himself. This is at the White House as the Christmas tree was lit, and it now shines bright in Washington. By the way, this marks the tree's 100th year, a tradition started by President Calvin Coolidge in 1923. The display also includes smaller trees from each of the 50 states decorated with ornaments from their home states. Well, that's all for us on the late edition. Right now, I'm Kai Jackson. Now here's Rocco DeSangro with Sports Unlimited. Rocco, you a LL Cool J fan?
Yeah, man. I listen to him all the time
There
back
you
in
go.
the day.
There you go.
Back in my day. That's what I'm talking about, Kai.
They're jingling, baby.
No. There's a chance Greg Roman does not finish the season in Baltimore. The Ravens offensive coordinator. He's a name that's been linked to the Stanford head coaching vacancy, a place that Roman is very familiar with. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic is reporting that Stanford has talked with the Ravens offensive coordinator about the job. Roman, he was a member of Jim Harbaugh's staff from 2009 to 2010. John Harbaugh basically confirmed the two sides have indeed been in contact.
I guess I can. You know, I mean, Greg talked to me. He said that there had been some contact there. I think it's very preliminary right now, and that's where it's at. You know, when you have really great coaches, they're going to have opportunities, and we always try to, you know, encourage that and support that any way we can.
Lamar Jackson was out on the field for practice today, but was listed as a limited participant. Jackson, who was supposed to have his weekly press conference today, was dealing with a quad issue. The team's spokesperson said that he received treatment after practice, and as a result, he did not speak with reporters. Running back J.K. Dobbins could be nearing his return to in-game action. The Ravens designated the third-year running back for return, and he was back at practice on the field for the first time Wednesday. Dobbins received a warm welcome from quarterback Lamar Jackson. He even got a nice ovation from his teammates after participating in a drill. It's nice to see him back on the field. Another 3-win team comes to town as the Ravens get set to square off with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. We all saw what happened last week, another blown fourth-quarter lead. And the defense, they're doing everything in its power to prevent that from happening again.
Yeah, everybody knows Russell Wilson, what he did in the past, and he's still capable of it. So when you got a guy like that knows the game, is very athletic, got an arm, you could do it all. You got to prep. You got to be at your all-time best with prepping.
All right, from the current Ravens to a former Raven, Trent Dilfer has been named the new head coach of UAB football. Dilfer played for the Ravens for 1 year, but in that one season, y'all remember what he did. He quarterbacked the team to its first Super Bowl victory. In his post-NFL career, he's been an analyst. Last year, he was coaching high school football. Now he'll lead the Blazers into battle for the foreseeable future.
Right here, you're walking into something that's a really pretty house. Like, it's got a great foundation, a lasting foundation. It's solid. And all you're really doing is adding fancy upgrades to it to make it elite. So it's not a rebuild. It's not even a remodel. It's a beautification of something that's already pretty darn good looking.
Dilfer Dimes was such a great segment. They got to find a way to incorporate that at UAB. College hoops tonight. And a crosstown battle, Coppin State, UMBC, and the Retrievers offense went nuts. I'm talking lights out. 8 players made threes, 5 scored in double figures. You had a program record, get this, 21 made three-pointers. UMBC wins big, 109-82 the final. Let's put things into perspective here. The NCAA record, they were 7 off. It's 28. So the battle for Greater Baltimore made its way to the hardwood as Towson and Morgan State squared off on the women's end. The Bears improved to 7-2 with a 76-48 win. Janiah Henson, she was balling. Game high 28. Charlene Shepard finished with a 13-point, 12-rebound double-double as the Bears get the big win. So let's talk about this game going down Friday night in College Park. Anyone and everyone is going to be there, including the legend himself, Scott Van Pelt. And he's taken to Twitter to tell everyone where to be. Number 22, Maryland. Number 16, Illinois. RJ Bentley's getting the shout out. Because why not? It's going to be a wild time. That's it for this edition of Sports Unlimited. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.